My husband dumped me over the phone, then tried to sell my apartment to fund his new life. Big mistake. I had no idea my life was about to take a sharp turn the day I stepped out of that conference room. The place was buzzing with people talking over each other, but I barely noticed. My phone lit up with a call from Tyler, my husband of 6 years. I figured it was the usual, asking how my trip was going, when I'd be back. So I stepped into the hallway, smiling out of habit. But what came through the phone wasn't small talk. "I'm leaving you," Tyler said, cold as a winter wind. "Also, I already sold the apartment. You'll have to figure out where you're gonna live." For a second, I just stood there, stunned. I literally could not breathe. He sounded proud, like he was doing me some kind of favor. My fingers clenched around the phone. "You sold the apartment?" I asked, trying to keep my voice calm. "Yeah," he chuckled like it was no big deal. "Nicole and I need the money to start fresh. That place is too small for her anyway. She deserves better." Hearing her name, Nicole, hit me like a punch. I had suspected something was going on for a while. The late nights, the last-minute business trips, the distance growing between us. It all made sense now, but hearing him talk about her like I was the one intruding on their life, that lit something hot in my chest. "All right then," I said, keeping my tone cool. I wasn't going to give him the satisfaction of seeing me break. "My name is Amelia, and until that phone call, I believed I'd married a man I could trust. Tyler and I had built 6 years together. Things weren't always perfect, but I thought we were a team. We had worked hard for that 2-bedroom apartment in the city. I loved it from the moment we first walked in. To me, it wasn't just walls and furniture. It was our foundation, or so I thought. Looking back now, there were signs. He brushed off questions about money. He always smiled and kissed me when I voiced concerns. I thought that meant he had things under control. Turns out, he just knew how to pull the wool over my eyes. I sat through the rest of the workday like a ghost, nodding through meetings while my mind ran wild. Tyler thought he'd won, that he could dump me, sell our place, and move on without a scratch. But there was one thing he had overlooked, something that was going to bite him hard. That apartment? It was in my name. I had taken full ownership months ago when we refinanced. Tyler agreed to it because it meant lower payments. He never asked questions, never read the fine print. And now, that ignorance was going to cost him. Back in my hotel room that night, I wasn't sad anymore. I was focused. If Tyler wanted a war, he was getting one, and I was ready to win. First thing I did was call Chloe, my lawyer and one of my oldest friends. I explained everything to her, keeping my voice steady even though my heart was pounding. "He sold the apartment?" she asked, disbelief in her voice. "Does he even realize he has no legal right to do that?" "Apparently not," I said, already feeling a flicker of satisfaction. "He thinks he's spent the money already, with Nicole." Chloe let out a dry laugh. "Well, he's about to get a nasty surprise. That sale isn't valid. You're the sole owner. And if he accepted money for it, he might be in legal trouble. Fraud, Amelia. This could get serious for him." I took a breath. "What's the next move?" "We'll inform the buyer right away that the sale was illegal," she said. "Then I'll send Tyler a letter explaining exactly what he's done. If he keeps pushing, we'll drag him into court." After hanging up, a calm came over me. Tyler thought he'd played me for a fool. Instead, he'd just handed me the upper hand. I spent the next couple of days throwing myself into work. It was the only way to keep my head clear. I knew I'd be seeing Tyler soon, and when I did, I needed to be ready. When my plane touched down, I called Chloe again. "I'm back," I said, yanking my suitcase off the belt. "Where are we at?" She gave me the update. "The buyer knows now." They were shocked, of course, and furious with Tyler. They've agreed to cooperate. As for him, I sent the formal letter to his email this morning. It spells everything out. Your ownership, the fraud risk, the fact that this sale never legally happened. No response yet, but I guarantee he's fuming. Good. Let him stew. When I walked into the apartment that night, everything looked the same. His coat still on the chair, his shoes by the door. But it felt different. Like the place knew something had changed. Later that night, right on cue, Tyler burst in. His face was red, and he was waving a printout of Chloe's letter. "What the hell is this?" he barked. "You're telling me I can't sell the apartment? It's half mine." I didn't even flinch. "Actually, no, it's not. The deed's been in my name for months." He blinked, thrown off. "What are you talking about?" I held up the document I had pulled earlier. "After we refinanced, I had the deed transferred. You signed the papers. Or did you just skim them like usual?" His mouth opened, but nothing came out at first. Then he sneered. "You think you're clever? This changes nothing. I already made the deal. You'll look like an idiot when it all crashes." I stared him down. "The deal's already dead, Tyler. The buyer knows the truth and is ready to sue if you do not return the money." Then I took a step forward, lowering my voice. "And if you touched a single cent of that deposit, you're in even deeper." He finally looked rattled. "You do not know what you're talking about." "Oh, I know exactly what I'm talking about," I replied. "You've underestimated me for years, but not anymore." He started pacing, getting louder. "This is insane. You're blowing things way out of proportion. You can't just throw me out." I raised an eyebrow. "Actually, I can. Legally, this is my place. I am letting you stay temporarily, only because I am giving you the decency of time to figure out where you will go. But make no mistake, I'm not leaving." Over the next few days, his anger turned into begging. One minute, he was calling me crying. The next, he was threatening. Meanwhile, Chloe made sure everything was airtight. The buyer backed out, furious with Tyler, and Chloe got the divorce paperwork started. "You're in a strong position," she told me one afternoon. "He has no leverage. Between the fraudulent sale and the voided agreement, he'll have no choice but to settle." I felt like I could finally breathe again. I had spent years shrinking myself to avoid conflict, but now I was done with that. My best friend Laura came over to help me start clearing out Tyler's things. We boxed up his junk, ties, shoes, everything. "How's he taking all this?" she asked, holding up one of his loud, ugly ties. "Not well," I laughed. "He still thinks he can charm his way out of it, but I'm not budging." "Good," she said, tossing the tie into the box. "He doesn't deserve even an inch of your space." She was right. For too long, I carried the weight of our relationship alone, emotionally and financially. But not anymore. I had people on my side now, and that made all the difference. Then came the moment that sealed it all. Tyler brought Nicole to the apartment. I was sitting at the table going over documents when they walked in like they owned the place. She glanced around, smug, and said, "So this is where we're staying?" I stood up, heart pounding but steady. "No," I said firmly. "This is where Tyler was staying. You won't be staying here at all." Nicole's smile dropped, and she looked to Tyler, who looked just as shocked. "What is this?" he snapped. "This," I said, motioning to the room, "is my home. Not yours, not hers, and not a hotel for you to shack up in." Nicole looked like she wanted to vanish. Tyler, on the other hand, turned red. "You cannot do this. You're being crazy." I stared him straight in the eye. "No, Tyler. What's crazy is thinking you could sell my home, take the money, and leave me in the dust. You're lucky I have not filed charges." He stood there in the doorway, helpless. Nicole looked like she wanted to run. And in that moment, I knew I had taken back the power he thought he had stolen. "Can't just kick me out of my own home. I took a step forward, my voice calm but unwavering. "This is my home, Tyler. The deed has been in my name for months, and you know that. You signed the paperwork without even reading it, just like you always do. So no, this isn't your home anymore." Nicole glanced at Tyler, her perfectly manicured hand tightening around her purse strap. "Wait, what's she talking about?" she asked, her tone sharp. "You said this was your apartment, that you sold it." He flinched, trying to wave her off. "It's complicated. I'll handle it." "Oh, it's not complicated," I said, stepping closer. "So you tried to sell an apartment that doesn't belong to you? That sale is void, Tyler. And as of right now, you don't have a leg to stand on." Nicole's composure cracked. "You mean the money you told me you had?" She stopped mid-sentence, her voice rising. "Oh my God, did you lie about that too?" "Nicole, let me explain," Tyler said quickly, holding his hands up, but she wasn't having it. "Oh no," I said, cutting him off. "Let me explain. Tyler tried to sell the apartment behind my back, thinking he could pocket the money and leave me with nothing. What he didn't know is that I had the deed transferred to my name months ago. So not only did he fail to sell it, but he also committed fraud by pretending he could." Nicole's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. "Fraud," she whispered, taking a step away from him. "Are you serious?" "Oh yes, fraud," I said, crossing my arms. "And I'm prepared to press charges if he doesn't get his things and leave by the end of the day." Tyler's facade finally cracked. "Well, you can't do this, Amelia," he said, his voice pleading. "We've been together for 6 years. You can't just throw me out." "You threw me out the moment you made that phone call," I said, my voice hardening. "You told me you were divorcing me and laughed about me having to find a new place to live. You didn't just betray me, Tyler. You tried to ruin me. So don't stand there and act like you're the victim." Nicole took another step back, her eyes darting between us. "This is insane," she muttered, clutching her purse tighter. "You didn't tell me any of this, Tyler. You said you had everything handled." He turned to her, desperation written all over his face. "Nicole, I can fix this. I just need—" She cut him off with a raised hand. "Don't. Just don't. I'm not getting dragged into your mess." Without another word, she turned on her heel and stormed out, leaving him standing there stunned. I couldn't help but smile as the door clicked shut behind her. "Looks like you're on your own," I said, turning back to Tyler. "Now let's talk about what happens next." He slumped onto the couch, burying his face in his hands. "Amelia, please. I screwed up. I know that, but you don't have to do this." "You're right," I said, grabbing a folder from the kitchen counter and setting it on the coffee table in front of him. "I don't have to do this, but I'm going to. This is the divorce paperwork my lawyer has already drafted, and I suggest you sign it quickly. The sooner you do, the sooner we can both move on." He stared at the folder, his face pale. "You really hate me that much?" "I don't hate you," I let out a bitter laugh. "No, Tyler, I don't hate you. I feel sorry for you. You had everything. Someone who loved you, a home we built together, and you threw it all away because you couldn't see past your own ego." I stood, my heart pounding but my resolve unshaken. "I want you out of here by the end of the day. Take your things and figure out where you're going to stay. This is the last time I'm giving you any grace." He opened his mouth to argue but stopped, his shoulders slumping in defeat. "Fine," he muttered. "It'll go well," I said, walking toward the door. "And don't even think about trying anything else. Chloe's already handling everything. The next time you cross a line, I won't hesitate to let the courts handle it." As I opened the door, Tyler slowly stood, grabbing his coat. He didn't look at me as he walked out, his footsteps heavy with defeat. For a moment, I felt a pang of sadness. Not for him, but for the life we could have had if he'd been the man I thought he was. But that moment passed quickly, replaced by a sense of relief. I closed the door behind him, locking it with the new key I'd had made. This was my home now, and no one, especially not Tyler, would take it away from me again. The silence in the apartment after Tyler left was deafening. For the first time in years, I felt like I could finally breathe. The space no longer felt heavy with his presence, his entitlement, or his lies. It was just me, the home I built, and the quiet realization that I had won. Not just against him, but against every doubt I'd ever had about standing up for myself. I stood in the middle of the living room, taking in the emptiness where his things had been. His oversized gaming chair, the framed jerseys that had cluttered the walls, and the gaudy coffee table he'd insisted on keeping were all gone. The apartment looked cleaner, brighter, like it was mine again. Lauren came by that evening with takeout and a bottle of wine. "Is he really gone?" she asked, plopping down on the couch with a dramatic sigh. "Gone and not coming back," I said, pouring 2 glasses of wine. "I gave him until the end of the day to pack his things. He didn't argue." Lauren raised her glass. "Fresh starts and well-deserved victories." I clinked my glass against hers, feeling the weight of the past week slowly lifting, to never letting someone walk all over me again. Over the next few days, I began to reclaim the apartment piece by piece. I rearranged the furniture, moved my favorite artwork into the living room, and filled the space with things that made me happy. It wasn't just about redecorating, it was about turning the apartment into a reflection of who I was, not the person Tyler had tried to make me. Chloe called with updates on the legal proceedings, her voice filled with the kind of confidence that made me feel invincible. "The fraud charges are off the table since the buyer decided not to pursue them," she explained. "But the divorce paperwork is moving along smoothly. Once Tyler signs, you'll be officially free." Hearing the word free made my chest tighten. It wasn't just about the divorce. It was about everything I'd been carrying for years. The resentment, the self-doubt, the feeling of being trapped in a marriage that didn't value me. It was all finally being lifted. Tyler tried to reach out a few times, his messages ranging from half-hearted apologies to pathetic attempts to guilt me into reconciling. "I made a mistake," one read. "Can't we at least talk about this?" Another was more desperate. "And you're going to ruin me, Amelia. Is that what you want?" I didn't reply. For once, I wasn't going to waste my energy trying to fix something that was broken beyond repair. He'd made his choices, and now he was dealing with the consequences. By the end of the week, the apartment felt like a completely new space, warm, inviting, and entirely mine. As I sat on the couch with a cup of tea, the city lights twinkling outside the window, I thought about everything that had happened. Tyler's betrayal had been a shock, but it had also been a wake-up call. For too long, I'd let myself believe that I didn't deserve better, that I had to settle for whatever scraps of respect and love he decided to throw my way. But now I knew better. I wasn't just reclaiming my apartment. I was reclaiming my life. A month later, my life looked completely different. The apartment was unrecognizable, not because of any drastic renovation, but because of how it felt. It was a space that reflected me, my tastes, my personality, and my newfound independence. The absence of Tyler's clutter and his overbearing presence made the home feel lighter, freer. The divorce was moving along smoothly. Chloe had handled everything with precision, ensuring Tyler had no room to argue or complicate the process. He signed the papers without much fuss, likely realizing that he had no leverage. There was no grand showdown, no emotional plea to work things out. Just a cold, clean break that felt both bittersweet and deeply satisfying. One day, as I sorted through some old papers, I came across a photo of Tyler and me from our early years together. We were smiling, arms around each other, full of hope and promise. I stared at it for a moment, letting the memories wash over me. There had been good times, moments when I truly believed we were building a life together. But those moments were gone, overshadowed by years of neglect, manipulation, and betrayal. I tucked the photo into an envelope and put it away in a drawer. It wasn't worth keeping out in the open, but I wasn't ready to throw it away either. It was a part of my past, but it didn't define me anymore. Lauren and I celebrated the finalized divorce with dinner and drinks at a trendy rooftop bar downtown. "You're glowing," she said, raising her cocktail in a toast. "Single life suits you." I laughed, feeling a warmth I hadn't felt in years. "It's not the single life," I said. "It's the freedom." For the first time, I didn't feel like I was living under someone else's rules. We toasted to that, and as the night went on, I felt a growing sense of pride in myself. I'd faced one of the hardest moments of my life and come out stronger. I wasn't just surviving, I was thriving. Back at home, I started planning for the future. The apartment had become more than a refuge. It was a symbol of everything I'd reclaimed. But I knew I wouldn't stay there forever. Someday, I'd move to a new place, one without any lingering shadows of my life with Tyler. Until then, I was determined to make the most of every moment in the space I had fought so hard to keep. As I curled up on the couch that night, a sense of peace washed over me. I thought about how Tyler had laughed during that phone call, so certain that he'd won, and I couldn't help but smile. His arrogance had been his downfall, and my quiet strength had been my salvation. This wasn't just the end of a marriage. It was the beginning of a new chapter, one where I called the shots, one where I chose happiness on my own terms. And after a long time, I felt truly free.